Welcome in, everybody. We are going to be doing a little interview tonight with Rushi, talking all about StarCraft, how he got into the game, everything about him. He is somebody who I have a lot of admiration and respect for. So thank you so much, man, for joining me tonight. I can't wait to dig into this.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. Was really excited when you reached out, and think it's going to be a good time hanging out.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't we just do sort of your StarCraft origin story first? How did you come across the game? What made you kind of like it? Any direction you really want to take that topic?
Okay. Well, I am probably one of the baby StarCraft 2 people in the scene. It feels like a lot of people I talked to were in it when Brood War was a big deal and right at the very beginning of StarCraft 2. I got into StarCraft 2 in 2012. It was like right at the end of Wings of Liberty. And I had a friend in college, really close friend of mine still to this day. His name's Zach, and he just always told me, he's like, dude, like there's this game that you would just love. And he was like a Brood War person. He played all the
Mm,
way in his childhood through Brood War into StarCraft 2, and he just kept telling me, he's like, you're gonna love this game. Like this is gonna be so much fun. And one day, just on a whim, is like, all right, let's do it. And we bought. I would think it was actually, I went to Walmart when they were still selling like the boxed versions of the games, and bought the Wings of Liberty box set and booted it up. Had a lot of fun. I mostly played for like the team aspect. Definitely, like in my early 20s, I valued a lot more team game elements because I liked being social with games.
sure. Yep.
So the thought of like the 1v1 ladder really scared me for the really
Totally.
longest time. Wait a minute, like I could play against people, but if I'm bad, it's my fault. Like I can't handle that. We're just
Yep.
not gonna go there.
Yep.
So lots of 2v2s and stuff like that, but kind of just built over time. There was definitely a period at the end of Heart of the Swarm where I just took a break and just wasn't playing it for a while. And about 2015, I kind of picked it back up again, started streaming, and just kind of dove headfirst in. I've climbed up the ladder quite a few times, got into casting, and the rest they say is history, right?
Yeah. Awesome, man. It's so funny to hear you say that you're like young in StarCraft, or you came to it late, and you started in 2012. Like, I played Brood War as a kid, but it was, I wasn't serious, right? Like, I played the campaign with cheat codes, and then, said, all right, cool, that was whatever, and moved on to whatever else I was, whatever the next game was. And apart from like maybe five or so games that I played in Wings beta, didn't really seriously pick the game up until Legacy. So to hear you kind of say, "Oh, I'm so green," it's like, "Ooh, what does that make me then?" Damn. Um, Very cool. So, what about sort of stylistically as a player? Do you kind of have like a go-to sort of sweet spot of, like, I like my games to look like this, or I try to steer everything towards a certain kind of feel?
Ooh, I'm a very chaotic neutral sort of player when it comes to StarCraft because I feel as if I don't have a specific style.
Mm.
Now, like before everybody just looks at my name and goes like, "Oh, but you got the word rush right in your name." Like I can't tell you how coincidental rush ends up being in my username, and we can talk about that at some point because it
Yeah,
is
let's
a
do
bit
it.
of a fun story. But I would say I am a bit more of an aggressive player. I think I play Zerg for a reason. I like being all around the board and doing different things, but I'm totally fine playing a very methodical, drawn out game. Like I know right now, my play style for like ZVT, for example, is very oriented around just like heavy tech switches. I do a fun muta opener
Mm.
that after you build 8 mutas, it's a max out on Roach Ravager, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I enjoy that. I actually played a little bit with Starkiller, one of my teammates on Alpha
Mm.
X, and I think I can say that now because a while ago he's like, I'm just like getting this build going, like don't tell anybody, but like he's played at all sorts of
Uh-huh.
WCS games, so I think I'm okay saying that I picked up some fun builds from him. But
Yeah.
ZVP is just silly and broken right now, and if games last longer than 5 minutes for me, I've lost. So,
Mm.
and then of course ZVZ, I think Pig probably put it best. It's just a knife fight in a phone booth, but those are still a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
I'd say I kind of like to run the gamut.
absolutely. Very cool. Well, you briefly touched on sort of there being a fun story behind your name. I'd love to dive into that as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I've had a lot of people ask me about my username in the past. Rushi is like the third or fourth level of how the name came out. Back when I was a kid, I was on internet forums, which
Hmm.
again, like is kind of a dating thing, at least a little bit. I'm not gonna call myself old. I'm only 31,
I'm
but
I'm right there with you. I'm like, oh God, I know what he means. This is terrible.
so I was on an internet forum for a game called Golden Sun. It was like a Japanese RPG for
Yeah.
the Game Boy Advance.
Uh-huh.
Super fun game.
Really, really good.
Um,
Yeah.
Made a lot of good friends on there. One of the people I've actually kept in touch with is a writer for IGN now.
Hmm.
So her and I been pretty close, but we did a lot of like role playing on the forums. So I had to come up with a name, of course. And at the time, I settled on Ichiro, which is just like a stereotypical Japanese name. What is it? It's like a rough translation for tall one.
Hmm.
So I'm really tall. I'm 6'8", and even in high
Oh wow.
school, I was pretty tall guy. So I rolled with that and did that for a while. Got to college and played like League of Legends with friends. And Ichiro, obviously being a very generic, easily procured name, had to come up with something a little bit more specific so I could actually get a username.
Mm,
And I was
yep.
kind of sitting thinking about it and like, what can I put in front of it? I want to keep Ichiro there. What about Rush? Could do Rush Ichiro. Like, oh, that sounds cool. Type it in. Oh, it works. Perfect. So I just ran with that. Got into streaming, and this is actually the fun part. This is a good running gag on Loco Stream. I've been a big Loco fan for a long time, and when I started making my Twitch account, for whatever reason, Rush Ichiro was already taken. I was like, okay, this is awkward.
Yeah.
So naturally, I'm like, okay, how can I work with this? So I made Rush Ichiru. I just added an O at the end, and I was like, okay, cool, that's unique enough. So people started to get comfortable with that as my username. I'm like, well, that's not really the case. So it slowly started walking into like Rush Ichiro SC2 stuff like that because I was getting
Hmm.
big into StarCraft. And then when I started streaming, I I definitely noticed that the longer, more
Yep.
vague username was difficult. It's difficult for people to find. People are like, I don't know exactly what to call you because it's 17 syllables. And I started to notice the people that were really hanging out in my chat were just shortening it. Yo,
Mm,
Rushy, talk about this, or like, hey, Rushy, how you doing? I liked it, and it just kind of stuck. It was kind of short, like 2 syllables, really fit that nice, comfy username. Rushy SC ended up being a name that was available, and that's how we've gotten to today.
yeah. Fantastic. I love that. I kind of for myself almost wondered that a little bit. I was fortunate to get Aora like very early on in Twitch. I actually this is funny. I didn't get Twitch when I first signed up. I didn't understand the concept. I was like, okay, wait, so it's like YouTube, but I have to upload it like while I'm doing it. Like that's sort of a pain in the ass. Like I didn't understand at all, right? Like, but I thought about it. I'm like, okay, whatever. I guess like at least I don't have to like do file management or like have disk space. So fine. Like, and that was literally how I did it. And I was playing like a private server of an MMO at the time. I wasn't even doing StarCraft. But when I
Okay.
went to get all my socials for everything else, I ended up having to like tack on the SC2 pretty much everywhere else as well. And I kind of like it, man. Like, there's a little bit of a thing now where people are like, oh, Blizzard doesn't care, whatever. Like, am I gonna hate that I have that attached to my name? And I don't think I will. Like, I feel like I kind of want to keep it from like a standpoint of like this is what I come from. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of
Mhm.
cool for it to be a piece of my brand. So yeah, I love that you ended up on Rush ESC. That's cool.
Yeah, and I would actually agree with you a lot on the kind of the Blizzard sentiment. There's definitely a lot of like sour feelings in the field right now, but I imagine
Right.
that's not going to linger. Like Blizzard's
Yep.
such a big presence and a big name in the community and just esports and gaming in general that
Yep.
it, it's always going to be a positive thing, even if we do see the future for what we think it's going to hold, like with Dreamhaven or Frost Giant, and we start
Sure.
moving in that different direction. It's like you never forget your elders, right? You
Yep.
never forget who started it all to make other cool things possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it almost becomes this thing where, the people who made it and the people who are in the community and all that, it's almost more theirs than it is anybody's, right? Like companies can do whatever they're going to do in terms of corporate structure, but like, I know some of those folks now. I've been fortunate enough to meet some of them at BlizzCon. It's like, those people are StarCraft, right? And the people in the
Hmm.
community are StarCraft, right? So that's kind of neat. You kind of have touched on this a couple times now, getting into streaming. What was that like for you? Was it like a very conscious decision? Did you kind of do it by accident? How did you arrive at, deciding to stream?
Um, well, I like by nature, I'm a musician, so I'm kind of a performer from just the
Mm-hmm.
get go. I've been in theater my entire life. Both my parents did community theater, like literally since the day I was born. My mom had always
Oh,
told me
wow.
how, like they'd be doing rehearsals for plays in the town I grew up in, and I'd be sitting in just like just a little rocker off stage, and
Yeah.
mom would walk on stage with me every so often. So I've just always been involved with like the performance aspect. So streaming was always a really interesting draw to me. It took me until I guess I really had like a computer that could handle it
Sure.
before I really dove into it. But I got kind of cozy with some streamers. Like I said, I've been a part of Locos community for a while. Watched a lot of other really just entertaining personalities. Neuro is another one of those people. In Control was another person that really inspired me.
Mm.
And then just kind of jumping around the board with man, is this something I think I could do? I never really
Mm.
saw myself being like a funny character necessarily, because I think there's definitely a lot of different avenues when it comes to streaming. So
Yep.
like you've got your comedic personalities, you've got your big dramatic personalities, and then you've got people that are just like genuinely like interesting to watch.
Mm.
And I would probably say that it's hard for me to really determine like, oh yeah, I'm definitely this type of person, because
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still a little bit of imposter syndrome with me being a streamer. Like it's weird even like calling myself a StarCraft personality, because I'm sitting here going like, I'm just a guy in my basement that
Right.
likes to play StarCraft every so often. And wait, there's people that like know me.
Mm-hmm.
So so getting into that, I kind of went into StarCraft streaming just as a way to connect with more people in the community and just be a part of something a little bit bigger than myself. And I've found some really cool people along the way, just as a part of that. And I think that is the value of streaming for me, at least at this point. There's a lot of people that do it full time or try to do it to make a living. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to. I've got a career outside of streaming that keeps me pretty happy as well. But it is nice to find people that I can connect with in terms of like just StarCraft and gaming in general.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. That was my motivation too. Is just like I wanted to meet more StarCraft people. I wanted to have more StarCraft friends. Watching GSL or whatever, and be like, "Oh, this is so hype." Like, did you see that? Like, just having buddies to do that with is really really cool. Or even going around to different Twitch chats and like you see people Oh, I know that guy. I know that girl.
Hmm.
That's just really really neat. So what about casting? Like how did you make that jump? I mean, it sounds like you kind of have the performance aspect, so I could see maybe how you would, lend yourself to that, but how did you really get into it? What was the beginning of that?
So I have a friend that I kind of connected with over the course of time. His name's Shir Shaddai.
Mhm.
He was a person that I think we kind of bumped into each other by accident at a event in Atlanta. It was the first
Ah.
LAN that I went to for StarCraft, and we just kind of happened to bump into each other. We sat next to each other at the LAN area, which was really neat. So we got talking and just various things. I think at that point I was still like high platinum, low diamond,
Mhm.
and wasn't super great at the game or anything crazy. But he just kind of talked to me about what he does with StarCraft and how he was a part of a team called Proxy Tempest that did like community casting and I hate to say low level tournaments, because it sounds like not positive, but
Yeah.
I mean they weren't drawing the best players, but I mean like it's GM level players, like
Mhm.
they're good games. And
Yeah.
and I found some interest in that, and I think over the course of time, I slowly like would watch and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like I like this. When I was in school, I was on our TV broadcasting crew. We had like a state of the art studio, and again, more of that performer aspect kind of coming back. So
Yeah.
I was sitting as like, oh, like I've done the whole sit in front of a camera and like talk about stuff before. That's not a spooky thing for me. And I was like, I think I could do this. It seems like fun. And got the opportunity, kind of talked him up. Lady Azalis was the person that was in charge of the whole event, and she was like, "Yeah, let's give it a try. You can cast with Shirshadai, and we'll give it a try." And there were some other people in the scene. I know Daedalus, who goes by Day now, was a part of that. Andy Man 5000 was
Mhm.
another person that was in that crew. Who else did I cast with at that point? They did a really nice job of kind of just building me up, showing me the ropes. And I were very opposite levels
Uh-huh.
when I would try to watch for influence on what kind of person I'd want to be.
Mm.
I obviously, like everyone else, kind of go to the tastosis level of
Mhm.
synergy, where you've got one person that is just very like thoughtful and analytical and likes to talk about various things and like, wow, isn't this amazing? Like if you had 4 vultures there, it really outmatches the level of 5 because you get the better efficiency. And then you've got the other person just losing their mind. It's like, can you
Right.
believe this happened? Everything just exploded. It's amazing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I kind of loved that about Tasteless. I was like, okay, like this is me. And for what it was worth at that point, Shir Shaddai ended up being that very thoughtful
Mm.
person
Yeah.
that was very analytical, would love to break stuff down. And he would do like a 2-minute spiel at the beginning of the game. And my brain's a little fried, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, that's really neat. But now look at this Reaper. It threw a mine out. And, oh my gosh, I can't believe the wall's open now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it just really worked out.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
it was just a lot of fun. I had a really good experience with it. And I will admit that I just got very lucky in
Mm.
terms of getting opportunities. Let's see, 2018 was when I really started looking for a community to be a part of, because I
Mhm.
had done things with like my local friends and just occasionally like random people. Loco had a nice community, but his was more European based. So a lot of the times I wanted to play, all of those people were either like really tired because they're staying up super late or they're in bed.
Right.
So I was looking into a group to get a part of, and Psionic Aftermath ended up being the group I kind of gravitated towards. The team leaders at the time were based out of Minnesota, and I'm from Iowa. So
Mhm.
I was kind of looking for the aspect of I'd love to have people that maybe I could go and visit and like do things in person with.
Yeah.
Going to Atlanta in 2017 was just so fun because I loved the physical, like in person aspect of it.
Mhm.
So I got involved with them, and literally a month later, like barely even a month later, the whole team kind of just separated apart because there was just disagreements at the top. And it was Sushi, who is now the current team owner for Alpha X. And who else was a part of that? There was someone that reached out to me. I forget. I feel bad. I can't remember who it was.
Mhm.
They were just like, "Hey, we're gonna like do our own thing. We're gonna take this whole team and we're just gonna start something new. You want to be a part of it?" And I was like, okay, cool. So that was kind of the birth of Alpha X. They were looking to host more events and to get into being a bigger part of the scene, which, as you can see now, it has been a
Yeah.
successful endeavor. At least I like to think so so far. And it just got me into some opportunities with casting. And at that point, I just really took off. I got paired with a lot of great casting duos and started doing some of my own solo casting. I had some great guidance from like Sushi and a lot of the other people that were casting. Like I know Droptimus was a person that casted a lot
Mhm.
while I was here. Kozan is somebody that I've casted a lot with, and he is someone that I've learned a lot from. And I can't think of a specific moment where things just happened for me, but I just
Mm.
all of a sudden found myself like, hey, here's this big event for Afrika. Do you want to cast it? And it's like, yes.
Right, yeah.
Here's oh wait, ESL just reached out to us. They're looking for a caster to help cover one of their qualifier events. Do you want? I was like, yeah, yes, please help me.
Very good.
and it was just, yeah, it just got really, really cool. So I am not lost on the fact of how fortunate I was just to be in the right place at the right time.
Mm.
And I'm really grateful just for the opportunities that I've gotten. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. I feel like you're almost too modest here. It's I get the sentiment of, needing some luck and needing to get some breaks and stuff, but obviously, like, I'm listening to everything that you just said about, your background in terms of, having, this awareness of like stage presence, or, being around music, being around theater, and growing up with that, and having experience with broadcast, not being, nervous in front of camera. I'm like, you were born for this. You, like, your whole life narrative, and it's, there's considerable skill that gets brought forward. I mean, if you didn't have that and these opportunities came your way, you wouldn't be able to capitalize on it in the way that you have, right? So you gotta give yourself some credit. Gosh, I feel like you threw out so many names of just amazing people in the scene. I almost don't even want to give anecdotes about any of them, for fear of like forgetting somebody, but there are just a couple that spring to mind. So I know Sheer as well. He and I go back, quite a ways. He's one of the people who, in the early days of my stream, was very supportive, and, gave me advice in chat. And man, he really knows his stuff. I get exactly what you mean in terms of, him being able to be that analytical mind to say, let me just tell you every single nuance about that interaction that we just saw in game two, like, and that's so neat. Like, I can totally picture that dynamic, and how well that would work for the two of you. That's really neat. I had the opportunity to meet him at an event as well. I totally get you on the energy, that feeling of just, this crowd, and you're watching the game, and it's like you're looking at it, oh, I know you from your stream, and I know you,
Hmm.
and I know her from her stream. It's like, oh, it's like the internet is here. It's such a fun environment. And yeah, as far as like Alpha X, I mean, gosh, I can't say enough good things. I mean, I remember when you all made that from nothing, right? And it was literally just like, hey, we have like our group of people or whatever, and we're recruiting some folks, like, who wants to do this, and like, continually, as that was building up and building up, and you all were gaining momentum, getting sponsors, and getting these, different opportunities. Like, I don't even think people realize how hard you all had to work to get to where you're at, right? Like, and it's not like, it was just one person. That is very, very much a team effort. Like, obviously, you've got great leadership, but just everybody there, I can't say enough good things in terms of like what you've been able to make off of just straight, like, grassroots hard work. I just, yeah, can't say enough good things. Well, without me blabbing too much, let's go to our next sort of topic. So, we touched on kind of you as a player, you as a streamer, you as a caster, right? There's kind of, they're related, but they're all sort of slightly different things. Do you primarily consider yourself as any one of those in particular? Or like, how do you think about that?
I think probably most people know me as a caster,
Mm,
especially over the last year. I've just had a lot of really bigger opportunities where I've been on a bigger stage to be exposed to more people. I think if you would have asked me this a year ago, I probably just would have been like, oh yeah, there's that guy that's like really popular in like Loco stream, and that's still like a pretty big platform as well. I mean, he pulls in like 1,000 viewers on a
hmm.
daily average. But I think just being that kind of that mid-range caster, I'll never put myself up on the same pedestal as like the greats of Fear Dragon and Pig and Roddy and Maynard and all of those wonderful people. But I think I would feel comfortable saying that I bring a really nice mid-ground hype cast level for me.
Yeah.
So um that would be my that'd probably be my assertion. Like as a player, I'm just a Diamond One player. I fit in with all of the Diamond One Master Threes that like we're good at the game, but there's definitely lots better ahead of us. So
Hmm.
nobody's showing up to my stream going like, guys, did you catch this sweet build that Rushi did? He built 19 drones and then lost.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, that's very cool. Let's see. I'm just, you actually answered like a couple of my questions. So I'm trying to go through here, and you anticipated well some of the things I was gonna drive at here.
Oh
Um,
shoot.
so okay, well, let's go this direction. So among the many things that you do in the scene, one of the things that you're doing right now is casting the junior league, right? That was you actually
Yeah.
did that earlier today. So I'm so curious. You kind of touched on. Well, we actually haven't said it. So let me backtrack. Bad
Sure.
interviewer, terrible, unwatchable. Um, let's actually say for the people, what is your sort of day job and your career?
Sure. So I got my degree, my 4-year degree as a bachelor's of arts in music education. So I'm a band teacher full time. I have taught in the state of Iowa. This is my 10th year of teaching. I taught 1 year of middle school band my first year of my career. And then the last 9 years, I've taught high school band in a couple of different places. So that is working with kids is my day job. It's something I really enjoy doing. I'm just kind of a band nerd at heart, so it made sense for me to make money off of doing that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So then, now that I've spoiled it by asking the questions in the wrong order, in what ways does sort of your professional knowledge base and sort of experience kind of influence your interactions in junior league, whether it's, talking to players even in chat just a little bit, whether it's any different real interaction, the way you might cast or the way you might do, like winner's interview or any of those things. I'm so curious because I feel like it has to influence it a little bit, right?
I would definitely say so. A lot of what I get to do with like the junior championships is basically just kind of building up the future. There's a ton of parallel between what I do as a band teacher, trying to just inspire kids
Hmm.
to think like, hey, like this band thing's really fun. Like I want to do this the rest of my life, even if I don't teach or be a professional musician. Like I can be 35 years old and like show up with a guitar at some club and make some money doing that, or even just play for fun, just play for the enjoyment of playing.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I value in the junior championships is very similar, where we've got kids that StarCraft 2 is very a strong passion for them, something that they love to be really good at and they want to get better. And I can't take any of the credit for the junior champs. Miguel, one of our team leaders, he's actually our European team captain
Mm-hmm.
and team admin. I forget his exact title. He's the one that came up with the idea of the junior league and reached out to me and said, "Hey, this be something you like to cast?" And at first, at first it was like, "Oh yeah, another opportunity to cast. This is really cool." But after doing a few of them, just the way that he really focuses on like doing the interviews, as you mentioned, that's
Mm.
something that I really like, getting to talk to them and hear from them, and just seeing how these kids grow over the course of time. It became very clear to me that it was something special that I really wanted to remain part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for anybody out there who maybe is watching this live or sees this on YouTube, if you haven't checked out that series, I had the pleasure of catching it not earlier today, but last weekend, I want to say,
Hmm.
because Fianton was playing in it. And
Yeah.
he's been a longtime supporter of mine, and I remember him hanging out in my chat in the very early days where he's like, "I'm not that good yet, but I think I could be." And I'm this old, and I want to work really hard. And I said, "All right, you do school first, StarCraft second, but yeah, man, you go for it." And to get to see him slugging it out was really really cool, and I really enjoyed your cast the other day.
I
So yeah,
appreciate that.
ladies and gentlemen, get the heck over there and support that. If you haven't, check it out. It's a ton of fun. Um it's just really neat to get to see, the ushering in of sort of the next wave of folks like that. I love that. And I can't think of anybody more perfect to do it than you either. So I'm so glad that that's how that ended up. Yeah, very cool. So do you use sort of your theater background, your sort of, stage training, are you turning that on for your cast? Is that a conscious thing, or is it just so woven into your being that it probably happens without you thinking about it?
That's actually a really good question. I know there's a lot of people that, for the lack of a better way to put it, like they have two personalities, right? They have
Mm.
their on personality and then their off personality. And I while yes, I definitely like crank up the energy for like a cast
Mhm.
and really get into it because nobody wants to watch somebody that's just kind of deadpan and in the center.
Mm.
I kind of feel like I'm just an animated person in general.
Mhm.
So a lot of my life is in that on personality. So and again, it kind of comes back to being that band and theater nerd, where like that's just when that's all that you do, that's just who you become and who you are. So
Mhm.
I mean, even sitting like here right now, like I'm moving around a lot, my arms, like you can't even see my arms half the time, but like I'm gesturing. I
Yep.
like, who am I gesturing to? My concrete wall behind me. So but yeah, I think there's definitely a lot that is just naturally kicking in. Being a teacher is kind of in that same vein. It's performing, but it's just like a different type of clientele rather
Mhm.
than entertainment necessarily. My goal is like, okay, how can I keep 75 teenagers all locked in at the exact same time so we can like learn something either we're working on in band or a concept I'm trying to teach them. And that's my normal 8 to 9 hour day job. So
Mhm.
it's just kind of an extension of that. And even coming home to be on stream, I think there definitely was a point where it's like, oh man, I just this is just an extension of my day. I'm gonna have to turn it on. I'm really tired.
Uh-huh.
But even just over the past couple of years, it's just like, oh, okay, this is just a thing I get to continue doing. All right,
Mhm.
let's go. Click the stream
Wow.
button.
So are you you're streaming 5 days a week then after work or
No, I only
okay.
stream right now 3 days a week because I won't lie, being a teacher is exhausting,
Yeah.
especially this year in the middle of a pandemic. I
Mhm.
noticed last year I didn't stream nearly as much. I'd taken a new job in at a much larger school than the one that I
Mm.
worked at. I went from having a band of 40 to having a band of 80,
Oh wow.
and it's a lot more kids and a lot more work on it. So I'd get home at night and it's like I'm just exhausted. I just
Mhm.
need to go lay on the couch and do nothing all night. But this year has been a lot better. I actually had a super rare opportunity where like and definitely not going to make like light of the pandemic because
Mm.
there have been a lot of people that have been horribly affected by that, but
Sure,
for
sure.
me, I had a very rare moment where I mean, my school was still paying me full time. We went into online school
Mm.
with all of our kids, and most of my work was done by 11 a.m. So I
Oh,
got to a
yeah.
point where I was able to stream. I streamed for 5.5 hours, 6 days a week
Wow.
from March until August. And that was kind of a surreal moment for me where I kind of got that taste of being a full-time streamer
Ah,
just a little
uh-huh.
bit. And like it definitely scratched an itch that I forgot that I had as a
Mm.
performer, because now it's back to that like performative entertainment, and I enjoy that. I enjoy making music. I enjoy being in theater, and I enjoy streaming. So
Mhm.
um, it was definitely a bit of a trick coming back to being a full-time teacher, because it's like, oh, I kind of like the streaming aspect, and then my numbers were kind of boosting, and I was
Yeah.
getting a lot of like serotonin off of the whole experience, a lot of cool people joining into the community.
Mhm.
So for me, I made myself kind of a line in the sand. I was like, okay, I need to keep going with some sort of momentum on what I gained over the
Mhm.
last 6 months. So making sure that I streamed a couple nights a week, and then Saturday is always reserved for junior champs casting. And if I
Mhm.
don't have anything to do for that, then I'll just do an extra long ladder stream.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's never been super consistent. It's had lots of ups and downs.
Mhm. Yeah, very cool. I totally get you on the workload of a teacher. So my best friend for my whole life ended up becoming a math teacher when we graduated college, and my mom actually my whole life has been a teacher as well. So yeah, I have seen it. I understand. I hear you when you say there's days you come home and there's just no there's nothing for it. You're gonna grade papers or whatnot and cry yourself to sleep kind of thing.
Oh, relatable.
um, Yeah, so I'm okay. My brain is going a million different places. I even had to like take notes while you're talking because you just gave me like four more questions I want to ask you. So I'm really curious. You ended up going into teaching music specifically. I'm
Mhm.
curious whether you ever considered, performing music as a career or performing theater as a career or teaching theater because it seems like you almost could have gone in, any of these different directions. And I'm wondering kind of what that process was like. Like, how did you land on I'm going to be a music teacher?
Well, uh, so the super short version of that story, like I knew I wanted to do something with band when I was in high school.
Hmm.
Initially, I wanted to be like a pharmacist because that was something that somebody was like, "Oh, Corbett, you really like being around people
Mm.
and pharmacy. You make a lot of money." Of course, that's like always the thing. Like mom and dad
Right.
got to make sure that I'm not going to live in a cardboard box
Yep.
for the majority of my 20s and 30s.
Hmm.
But I took my first chemistry class in high school and tried really hard and bombed it. And I was like, no,
Yep.
this not gonna happen. So I got involved with just like all sorts of music stuff when I was in school, and it was just naturally one of those where like, oh, how could I make money doing band stuff? So
Mm.
talked to my band teacher about it. I actually got involved with a really cool opportunity that I now help out with as an adult. It's a European tour uh, consistent of Iowa band and choir kids,
Hmm.
and I got to be involved with that. My parents were super gracious, and helped me be a part of that. And
Yeah.
getting to be around other band and choir teachers that loved and fueled my love of music really kind of sunk the nail in the coffin. I was like, okay, this is definitely
Mm.
something I want to do. My senior year, I got an opportunity to work with some uh, like college professors, and who ended up being my professor of music at the college that I went to in Iowa. Just really just constantly inspiring me to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever considered being a performer though.
Mm.
So my main instrument is the tuba, and you can actually like see it like in its case right behind me.
Yeah.
I can't say that tuba music has ever really like gotten me out of bed, like so excited to play, to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I didn't practice the way I probably should. So I think there was that a little bit of barrier to entry.
Hmm.
I've always been a person that I like doing a lot of things. So
Mm.
that's why I like theater, choir, band, video games,
Yeah.
TV studio. I had a full time job all the way through high school and college, or not. I guess not a full time job, but like a part time job. Um, I just always liked doing things, and I think there were a lot of points that, like, oh, I mean, could I play my tuba? Oh, I mean, I have to practice my tuba like 8 hours a day, and that's like the only thing I can focus on if I really
Yeah.
want to be good at it.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's really going to cut into my whole doing 19 things at once shtick I got going
Yep.
on.
Yep.
So I don't think I've ever really seriously considered that. And that was kind of where education started to become more intriguing, because as I
Mm.
was talking to people about it, it's like, oh, you spend like 2 years of your college experience, like learning how to play all of the other instruments. And like, oh, I get to play everything. I'm in. This is like
Mm.
exciting. I love it.
Yeah.
And that was something that was kind of reaffirming as I went along. And it literally exactly was that 3 semesters of college. We one semester we took brass methods, so all of the brass instruments in a normal concert band. The second semester was woodwind techniques, and this is all woodwind instruments, and then percussion. And I just thrived in that. I just thought it was
Uh,
really cool, and
yeah.
it's something that still really is fun when I teach lessons at school. I get no greater joy than like picking up an instrument and playing alongside a kid. And 9 times out of 10, like the kid's way better than me because I have just like a super base knowledge. So like even perfectly like 2 days ago, I have a kid. I love her. She's a sweetheart. She's sassy though. And I'm playing along with her. And we're playing a part. I'm skipping over like all the fast runs because I can't play them and I'm not going to screw the kid up. I'm squeaking along and like just sounded horrible. And like, Butler, like you really need to practice that. And I'm like, all right, your lesson's done. Get out of here. So but yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and I think it kind of leans into the whole education aspect. It's like, guys, if I can sit here and like woodshed away, sound terrible, you guys can at least do half that much and sound way better than I can. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That really resonates with me. I've always kind of had a similar thing where I was all over the place, interested in so many different things, and almost, for me, it was a self-conscious thing. I almost felt bad, right? Where, we get told, or at least, where I live, my generation got told, you really need to hyper specialize. You got to just, take your path and
yeah,
excuse me. And and really run with that. And I always kind of felt guilty for doing this, this thing you're describing. And yeah, I guess, Renaissance man is sort of a sexist term, but right, we could say Renaissance person, right? So someone
Mhm.
who, uh can do, production and work a camera and be on, on camera entertainment too. And also know, subject matter like StarCraft, all of these different things that it takes to be a streamer. It's so interesting to me when I think about it from that angle. And so many people have, not necessarily in interviews, but just conversations I've had with other streamers have described exactly what you just did to me, where it's like I had all these different things, and it was almost like, oh, this limits my options that I want to, be so diverse. But it's like there are things that exist now that didn't exist then, like streaming, where you benefit so greatly from being that Renaissance person, right? Where you are so diversified, and without that, you would not be able to do what you do at the level that you do. So that's way cool. I loved hearing you kind of describe that.
Well, and I'd even love to speak to like one point of that.
Yeah, yeah.
This summer, when I had an opportunity to cast one of the bigger Korean events through Alpha X, it
Hmm.
was actually it was in Africa, the BJ Destruction League
Yeah. Hmm.
team tournament. Super fun, but I found myself in a position where I I had to juggle everything. Like I was used to having someone like, oh yeah, there's someone in the lobby that will make all the games for you, and there's like we'll contact the players and
Mm.
we'll take care of all this stuff. But no, I was like the sound guy. I had to take care of all of my transitions. I was the one like jumping into games, watching live feeds, and it definitely pulled me apart really hard. And I think it
Mm.
even was another step further when we hosted the King of Battles for Alpha X. And for most of that, I was production and talent at the same time. And let me tell you, when you're working with the quality of people that we were getting in there. I mean, we cast a Maru versus Cyril. We had Hajinson in on the final day,
Hmm.
and we're pulling in thousands of people for viewers. And not only do I have to try and be like a thoughtful caster, but at the same time, like, oh, we got to like juggle audio over here. Like my whole second screen was just a mess because we're updating titles. I'm running audio, taking care of transitions. We had some really cool people behind the scenes that were helping me with like updating live brackets at the same time.
Yep.
It was really cool. But exactly what you just said, had I not been a kind of person where like I'm comfortable juggling 4 or 5 things at one point
Hmm.
and find like enjoyment with it, I don't know if I would have been able to hang on with that. I think that would have been a very difficult thing for me to do. So I I think there is a general appreciation for the people that stream and they do it well, but for me, having lived some of it and experiencing the level of stress that comes along with doing something very well, like
Yeah.
I have a super appreciation for the people that make it look easy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Love that story. I think you're right. There is an appreciation, but I also think it's easy for people to maybe not know or just not think of exactly how much all of that takes. I recently did a little bit of sort of grassroots casting myself, and kind of as you described sort of the easy mode version of it, where it's like I got somebody running the bracket, I got somebody making games, we're gonna cast them in this order. It's like, okay, wait, all I have to do is show up and talk for a little bit. Oh, okay,
The dream.
um yeah, so I definitely I have that healthy respect, because when all of that was being done for me was the very first time that I ever had the realization of like, oh, yeah, somebody does have to do that, huh? And if you weren't doing it, I would have to, and I would have not known to, and this would have been a disaster. So like, yeah, it takes a lot. And I think, as you say, you kind of have to be that sort of person who will nerd out a little bit and be like, "Oh, this is cool. Oh, that other piece of this is
Mm,
cool. Oh, yeah. How do you run a bracket? What would be the optimal way to, like?" And if you can't kind of get into it on that level and really engage, it would feel like this drudgery, right? This just work. And
yes.
I think it's really cool that there are people like yourself who can do that. Although I'm sure, having a little more help would be nice for something where it's, you're trying to like hype up Maru versus Cyril kind of thing. It would be nice to just focus on that.
That was actually the coolest thing that Alpha X actually did. I think it was around like July or August, somewhere in there. We actually
Hmm.
picked up just an esports manager in Vitamin, and he has
Mm,
been such a really cool person in our organization. And that was like literally his job for King of
yeah.
Battles. He was just the linchpin. He
Hmm.
held everything together in the center. He was a great talking point for me and Kozan when we were casting. He was working with Mapu on making sure that everything was covered on his end for observing, making sure all the players were in lobbies together. And I cannot stress how awesome he was in that role for that.
Yeah.
And he has been continuing to serve in that role.
Hmm.
Albeit for me, like he doesn't do anything for the junior championships, but like we're small enough, we really don't need a point person for that.
Hmm.
But having people that are genuinely interested in that go a long ways. And I think it's interesting as we see kind of the esports realm evolve into more of a business sort of
Hmm.
structure, because there's definitely those types of people in larger business worlds. I mean,
Yeah.
your CFOs that lock in main financing, and your department heads that are specifically just there to be, again, that go between
Hmm.
between the upper echelon and all of the people down below that help get things done and make things happen. And we start to see some of those transition over into the gaming world. I'll take a moment to be very self-aware that like I'm nerding out about, we've turned our video game into a high-level business, and it's so cool. And I love that.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I'm 31 and I'm old. Someone take the boomer away from the computer. Let somebody else do the work now. But I just I am fascinated by that, and I've had long conversations with Suji just talking about like how he wants to structure the organization.
Mm,
And it's been just really neat to see that, because I think like the world of education is is very rigid. There's just a way that we've always done it,
mhm.
and that can be toxic in of itself. But like I digress that point. And things are just kind of set and structured, but being in like the private business world is a fascination for me. It's not something I've
Mm.
ever done,
Yeah.
and getting a little taste of that and how things get structured out in a successful way, especially for an esports organization,
Mhm.
has been really really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Super, super neat. I yeah, I totally resonate with this too. And it's interesting because I do similarly think, oh gosh, I'm 33 and like working a second job talking about video games on the internet, like is this is this really my life? But I think, as much as it's easy to be hard on ourselves and be like, I'm supposed to be an adult and this is what I'm doing, like at the same time, although we are kind of, second or third wave esports at this point, it really, really feels to me on some intuitive level that's difficult to describe that we are absolutely still in like the Wild West days of what esports is and what it can be. And I look at something like an Alpha X, right? And it's interesting, right? It's interesting that you were able to create this big organization with all these moving parts, all these different things that you're kind of into, and even the diversified structure of like the different pieces of the team, right? Where it's like we've kind of got like our pro tier of players, and we these different things like that's interesting. That is a thing that I don't think people have done, right? Or if they have, I don't know about it. Maybe there's some other scene. I don't think that there's been an organization that complicated in StarCraft. I think, there have been a lot of teams with financial backing, right? And I guess you could consider, the sort of Korean pro teams and back, in the 2012 era when they were, sort of NA and EU pro teams. But that's kind of a different thing, right? That was like, hey, we have a bag of money and we're going to buy up some players and whatever. There hasn't really been a thing where it's like you're sort of forming a company, but kind of not, as you say, where it's like, some of you are in school, some of you have day jobs, and then there's this second thing, which is the Alpha X Corporation, right? That you're all running
Yeah.
with your blood, sweat, and tears, nights and weekends, kind of thing. And it's so interesting to me. It just feels like the world hasn't seen a lot of stuff like that. And it makes me wonder where we end up in 10 years, right? Like, are you all like, do you all end up with the bag of money at some point where it's like, hey, look, here's this organization that is thriving. What if we had an injection of cash, right? Like something like that. I work in the startup world doing software.
Mhm.
A narrative like that does not seem outrageous to me, right? Like here is a thing that already works. what could it do with some backing behind it kind of thing. And you've already sort of had that with sponsors, but it's, I just think it's such a fascinating time that we're in. And I wouldn't knock it at all and say, you're a boomer, let somebody else take over. I feel like you're right where you're supposed to be from my vantage point.
Not
What
it.
oh, go ahead.
That has always felt like I kind of like your perspective on that. It always felt like we did Alpha X in backwards
Mm,
progression.
mhm,
Like the most apt comparison to me is like Generic Green Wings, where
mhm.
like they are a very successful like aviation business and they
Yeah.
make their money flying planes, and then all of a sudden they just decided, well, we're going to take this sack of money right here and let's invest in these really awesome Korean players that play this game called Starcraft. Is that like Minecraft or something? And like short of us having a hub where like we would have like a team house or something to have like a physical tangible piece of our team.
Mhm.
Yeah, it feel I've always kind of wondered if it was ever going to transpire into that. The number of times I've
Mm.
jokingly said to Sushi is like, "Oh man, when are you going to quit your job and actually like do this full time?" Because I mean, he is a full time something. I
Yeah.
can't actually tell you what it was. Maybe somebody knows in chat, but he is a full time person outside of StarCraft, but then
Mhm.
does so much. I mean,
Yeah.
working around the clock to make something like that happen. I would treasure that opportunity if not that I don't love teaching because I've always been very clear about that. But if I ever got the chance to make good, decent money doing something in the StarCraft 2 or just even the esports video game streaming realm,
Mhm.
like I'd probably take a year and just be like, all right, let's go at it and see what
Yeah.
happens because that would be a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And if that ended up being like, yeah, let's work full time for Alpha X and make some really cool casting things happen, or do some personnel managing things behind the scene, like I'm ready. Like there you go. Like
Yeah.
there's the reach out. If anybody's got that, like hit me up. I'm super super intrigued by a lot of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with you. It always felt like we did that backwards. We had the core community come together, and then all of a sudden money came to us, and
Mhm.
that is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, super, super neat. And I would be remiss if I didn't touch on this briefly. You mentioned Vitamin. Gosh, I haven't talked to him probably in 9 or 10 months. But he and I go back a ways as well to the Infinity Gaming days. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so super interesting to hear his name come up. I didn't realize he was doing that for you all, but that's so cool. And yeah, can't say enough good things about him either. Fantastic to hear that's working out well for both sides there. I can absolutely see how he would be just fantastic in the position that you described. So, Vitamin, if you're out there, hope you're doing well, buddy. Um, yeah, so you kind of touched on sort of the full-time thing a couple times, so we didn't like really focus on it. I'm curious, like, with the experience that you did have with COVID and being able to dump a bunch of time, you kind of mentioned, you got a taste, right? And
Hmm.
you're seeing kind of numbers go up. And obviously, numbers are always up and down for a streamer.
Sure.
But having had that taste, would you do, if obviously like the finance piece of it was right, would you switch to streaming from teaching? Do you think that type of, like just streaming, not necessarily, casting events or something like that?
It's a conversation that I've had quite a few times in the
Hmm.
last calendar year for sure. I think if finances weren't a concern, like if I didn't have major bills to pay
Yeah.
and could absorb the risk of it not working,
Yep.
I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Hmm.
Like I said, I love teaching. I love the kids that I work with. I think that would definitely be difficult to walk away from them.
Hmm.
But I would be lying if I said that the routine that I got into during quarantine of waking up, doing some recorded video content, hopping on a camera at like 12:30 after having some lunch and then streaming for 5 hours
Hmm.
and then just enjoying my evening, it felt good. It felt right. It felt like it was something that I could maintain, that
Hmm.
I could all of a sudden like build over the course of time. Maybe we
Yeah.
do some networking, do the whole streamer thing, start uploading on YouTube and
Yep.
various things. It was really nice in terms of being able to take casting contracts, because a lot of the
Hmm.
contracts that Alpha X has don't line up with teaching for me.
Right.
So if like a Korean event is happening at their prime time, I mean, that's like 4 a.m. my time.
Yeah.
So over the course of
Brutal.
the summer, I was taking casting gigs where I'd have to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night so I could get up at 3:30, wake myself up, throw on like a nice dress shirt if I wanted to look really good, and then start my stream at 4 a.m. in the morning. So
Hmm.
it would definitely take a life change
Yeah.
to really tackle something like that. But I've definitely thought about it. There was a lot of discussion about not and this is just going to be as far as I get into politics, but
Sure.
like
Sure.
with the new administration,
Mm.
well, what if they came out with the $2,000 stimulus checks
Mm.
for the foreseeable future? At that
Right.
point, I'm like, well, then there's my risk factor
Right. Right. Right.
negated. I could do that. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely something that's very intriguing. I don't know if it's a window that is like closing for me, if that makes sense saying it that way. Like,
Mm.
I know there's definitely like a market for StarCraft 2 right now. I would be willing to say, and not a negative sort of way, but like StarCraft 2 maybe does have an expiration date
Mm.
for making it as a non top tier person in the
Sure.
scene.
Yeah.
And I definitely am not that great at video games outside of StarCraft 2, so it's
Hmm.
not like oh man, we're gonna watch this guy play Tetris 99. He's a god gamer.
Right.
But I it's definitely always lingered there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting point too, and something, as we're sort of peers in this way in terms of being in that space where it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess a couple of people know me in the scene, but I'm not Artosis kind of thing, where it's, you're
Yeah.
you're in that sort of that space beneath, where, we're not making our living doing this. And yeah, you do have to think about it a bit where, even if nothing happens to StarCraft, there are promising things on the horizon where, if some of the people who made StarCraft make some other cool thing, yeah, we're all going to go check that out. And if it's good, we're probably going to play that instead because it's going to be the new shiny, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel you there. Although, I think a lot of the skill set will translate. I mean, if you can get good at StarCraft or get up to, a certain level at StarCraft, you're going to be able to translate at least a portion of that to something, a new RTS.
Sure.
And certainly from the standpoint of commentary, I mean, everybody's going to be on an even footing. You'll have whatever experience you had coming from some other game, and
Mm-hmm.
you learn the new thing, and you're boom, you're there. So I don't worry about that so much, but I definitely have the thing you said of like, oh gosh, I've got like grown up bills and problems, and I got to make sure I pay for those. So yeah, but I am right there with you in terms of if I could, I would. Kessnuts in my chat said if I hit the lottery tomorrow, I'd be streaming. I'm in
Oh
that
yeah,
camp for
easy.
sure. It's just it's a really fun time. I'm curious, with your streaming, right? So, you talked before about teaching being kind of like a form of being an entertainer, but it's a little bit different. It's like you're still on stage, you're still trying to capture attention and hold people there, but there's a little bit of a different purpose. Have you ever thought about doing sort of more educational stuff in StarCraft, or do you just feel self-conscious about, not being like top 10 GM NA kind of thing?
It's definitely crossed my mind. I think there's just a lot of saturation in that
Yeah.
market for us. And there it's people that have been doing it for years now that
Mm,
are way better at it than I am.
mhm,
And not to say that I couldn't do something and be respectable about it and be proud of it,
mhm.
but I also would find myself going, well, I mean, I could do like a bronze to GM sort of thing, or I guess bronze to masters, but
Yeah,
like Vibe already like clearly owns that market and does
right.
it really well.
Mhm.
So why would I want to step on his toes? Or
Sure.
um, I've done the occasional of, well, I guess it's less educational, like doing like vodcasts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But But yeah, there's just a lot of really good people in the scene already that do that, and I have a ton of respect for them because I'm learning from their videos. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think I would want to take that traffic away from them.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very thoughtful answer as well. To consider sort of from a business perspective, where is there a niche, right? And yeah, definitely, certainly being able to wake up at 4 a.m. and cast Korean StarCraft is a niche.
Yes, it is. I can't say it's my favorite niche that I've done in my casting career, but sometimes there's always the stories about the musicians who had to sleep in their cars
Yeah.
overnight to go play at the gig that eventually got them in front of this person that got them their big gig. So some of the exposure talk in the performance world, right?
Hmm.
So there's time and place for that for sure, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to at least experience it. But if I don't have to do that all the time, I'm okay with that too.
Totally. Yeah. You certainly had the adventure. That's for sure. I'm kind of curious. I could guess at answers here, but where do you see yourself on sort of the extrovert introvert spectrum? Because you kind of got the like video game nerd thing, but you're also like, yeah, I could be on stage. So where do you feel like you fall there?
This is an answer that has evolved over the course of time for sure. Because
Mm,
like for the majority of my life, I'm like, I'm an extrovert. Like, get me out of there. Like, I love being around people. I still get supercharged in crowds, and I love talking with people. But over the last 5 years, I have found a deep appreciation that I have for just staying in my house and doing nothing.
yeah.
Like there is something that is just magical about that. I'm not the kind of person like I don't want to curl up on the couch like with a cup of tea and read a book
Mm,
because I'm not a big book reader. I probably should be. I'd be a lot smarter if I was. But I just there's just something magical about going home and I don't have to leave my house the rest of the day.
mm.
Sounds amazing. But I'm still supercharged. Like I like being a teacher. I love being around people and kids and being that performer.
Hmm.
And I don't think I would have ever thought of myself as an introvert, but like Xenodactyl posted in there, like Rise of the Ambiverts. I would definitely say I kind of fall into that category. I definitely have times where it's like, nah, I need to recharge.
Hmm.
One thing that has always caught my attention, like something that extroverts that I know have really loved, is like the bar scene. It's
Mm.
like a thing, like all through college, like yeah, let's go to the bar, let's listen to loud music and let's dance with people, and that has never interested me. I
Yeah.
went to the bar once in college. Is a horrible story that ended up with me getting locked out of my room because my roommate brought somebody back,
Oh no.
and uh, and I was just like, this is like not interesting at all. Like I hate this. What the
Yeah.
heck? But then at the same time, like I'll show up at a DreamHack event. There's just like all sorts of people. It's like I love it here. how,
Hmm.
how can it be like this 365 days a year?
Yes. Oh, I miss DreamHack, man. I can't wait for the world to be normal again. Oh, yeah, I totally get you. I have that thing too where it's like I do find that I need to recharge after, right? So like I guess in that sense maybe I'm introverted like that it does deplete me to do it. But oh man, when I'm in it, I'm just like this is the best. Oh, look, like I described earlier, where it's like you're looking at the crowd and you're like, I know you, I follow you on Twitter, I love your stream, that YouTube video
Mhm.
you made was great, and like it's just all these people there, and you're like, I don't actually know you, but I kind of know you. And I'm so hyped to be here. Look at what just happened in the game. It's like it's such a fun environment. Um, okay, I have one more question for you, and this one we've kind of again touched on, but it feels like one where you could tell maybe even multiple stories. And I feel like I would love to kind of get to hear those. So for the folks like you and me who feel like we came into it a little bit later, it being StarCraft and streaming and
Mhm.
the whole scene, there were a lot of people who came before and who were already established and existed. So I'm curious, like who are the names that come to mind when you think about folks who really influenced you, whether it was making you feel hyped about the game, or oh, I want to make content like that, or okay, you have that content lane, but I could go do this other complementary thing, or whatever it is. Like who what are some of the names? This is where you get to hype up the people you really admire.
Oh, well, I have to start with like my number one homeboy, and that's Loco. Like,
Hmm.
I did like let me just like put it out there. I'm gonna put it out there bluntly. I love that man. I have had like the sickest crush on him since 2015 when I got into his scene. Like he knows it. We've had like super. We've like a oh yeah like oh man Rushy, you're just like really all about me. I'm like yeah, but seriously, like dude, you're like super cool. I love you.
Yeah.
Um, he's someone that I actually got to do coaching with at the very beginning. He has watched me from bronze all the way up to
Oh
where I'm at as
wow.
masters
Yeah.
because I did coaching with him from the very beginning, and he just was somebody that I really connected with. I really enjoyed his content. I was somebody that wanted to be a part of his stream. So then I ended up kind of positioning myself like there was a day that needed a mod. I'm like, dude, I'll do it. And I've been a mod on his stream for a very long time. Doing cast or doing coaching, he always would do that on stream. So that was kind of that actually I should have included that as a part of like what got me into streaming
Mm.
and
Hmm.
doing that. Part of being on his stream and being a bit of a personality in that regard
Yeah.
through my coaching sessions was a very influential part of that as well. And it he became somebody that like there's always the underlying feeling of like oh you're paying for him to be your friend like I
Mm.
paid money to do coaching and then through that process like 90 minutes a month we got to sort of know each other and I
Hmm.
bought my friendship with him but he was a person that kind of transcended that a little bit with me
Mm.
where all of a sudden, like, oh man, hey, are you streaming this Saturday? Yeah, cool.
Mm.
You should be like live when I'm done, and I'll send you a raid. And
Mm.
like that was super cool.
Yeah.
And we've talked about various things as I started to get bigger into the casting realm. Like I know the first time that I actually did a paid gig
Hmm.
with DreamHack. I mean, he was very valuable and like, hey, here are the things that you should look for in
Mm.
those contracts. Make sure, like, ask for this, look for these sorts of things and like you don't just get that with like I paid $50 a month
Right.
to do 90-minute coaching with
Yep.
you that was always a cool realization like wait we became friends
Hmm.
and he is somebody that has always been there for me. We've talked a lot just about various things, life things. I think what somewhere I have like a Christmas card that he sent me, which
Oh,
was
that's
just
cool,
really
man.
cool.
Yeah.
So I that would be like my number one person. Like Loco's probably gonna someone's gonna send this to Loco because my community is very much his community. And like I love you, man. You've done so much for me as a StarCraft person that I can't ever adequately thank you for. And I can't wait to see like he's starting to blow up in a bigger way as well.
Yeah.
So I've been super supportive of him, and I hope he continues to find the success that he's looking for because he's killing it.
Yeah, man. It's
Um,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna transition. Go for it.
I was just gonna say, it's I love seeing people like him succeeding in that way. Like, I mean, the anecdote you told about the Christmas card is like the perfect encapsulation of it. Like, what a truly good human, right? Like, and
Hmm.
you see somebody like that succeeding, you're just like, oh, there is justice in this world. Like, you, yes, you are it. You are what should be succeeding in live streaming, right? Like, um, and yeah, I totally get the sentiment of like, oh, am I buying friendship? Is this gross? Is this weird? Like, and I almost think we maybe stigmatize it more than we should, right? So like, essentially what you're saying is, hey, Loco, your time is valuable, and I would
Hmm.
like some of your time to help me. It's no different than, for example, my cousin paints houses for a living, and he offered to help me with a job. I'm renovating a house, and I forced money into his hand over it, right? It's like, dude, you spent an afternoon on a Saturday doing this for me, not with your family and your kids. Like, frickin' take this cash and go buy some Christmas presents for him. That kind of thing. Like, so yeah, I get it, but at the same time, like, I'm so glad that you were able to rationalize it the other way and be like, oh no, it started out as this transactional thing, but we've become friends, and that's a really really cool story. Okay, that was. I don't want to interrupt your flow too much, but yeah, was
No, you're
touching
good.
for me.
Nah, you're good. Some of the other people, just like people that I've interacted with, in various capacities. Like I'll save the Alpha X people for the end because there's a lot of names there.
Hmm.
I think somebody that really kind of jumped out at me when I was starting to get in more involved in the scene was actually someone like Rifkin and
Mm.
Wardy.
Hmm.
I met both of them at Atlanta. I went to DreamHack Atlanta in 2017 and had an opportunity to be a part of the base trade tournament
Hmm.
with what they did there. And Rifkin was obviously coordinating all of the efforts there. Wardy was there as a part of it. I think he got invited to help out and just be a part of the scene, and it was neat interacting with them, just
Hmm.
learning some of the old war horses of the StarCraft 2 scene. I know Rifkin doesn't do as much with StarCraft these days, but
Mm.
I can't even think of a time in 2016, 2017 where Base Trade wasn't hosting two or
Yeah.
three different events every single day of the
Right.
week. And
Yeah.
he was one of the war horses of the community casting scene. And now Wardy is exactly that person, and is not only getting his own thing. There was the meme for a period of time, like in 2017, 2018, where, oh, Wardy's forever B stream, right? Man, we'll always have the WCS event, but there's good old Wardy covering the stuff on his own stream.
Hmm.
Never, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, I think is
Right.
the cliche saying. And getting to see him be on that mainstream, being the person, like the big host and the big person in charge of the
Yeah.
team league that they did this last year, is super cool for people like him. And I think had people like Rifkin and Wardy not popularized the community casting scene, I
Mm.
don't think an organization like Alpha X would have had the grips on being able to host like the Alpha Pro Series
Right.
and all of our like Exxon Cups, the Alpha Team League, and various different aspects of that allowed me the chance to get into casting. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it's a big shout out to those people. They walked so we could run.
Mm.
I've got tons of great cliches. You're ready here. Um, what else? There's another person that was in my brain. Neuro is actually
Mm.
somebody that I've really admired.
Yeah.
He is the antithesis of who I am as a person, I think, where I feel that I am very like widespread. I'm spastic. I
Mm.
want to jump around to 14 different things. I've
Hmm.
always seen Neuro as like a very narrow, like we are going to be
Mm.
like right here. We're going to love every second of it. And I've
Mm.
kind of watched his persona grow over the course of time. I started getting into him when he was still a kind of what I'd call pro gamer.
Mm.
And then I think he transitioned into his focus being like, I'm going to focus more on my stream
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
being a really great personality there. So seeing him kind of go full circle, we met at DreamHack Austin in 2018. And I will admit that interaction was an awkward one at best because I recognized him. I'm like, oh my God, it's Neuro. I have to say hi to him. I have to. And it was after the event was all done. Cyril had just won his second in a row. It was right at the beginning of his reign of dominance in 2018. And I just wandered up to him and I just said like, "Hey, he's Rushi. Like, I'm a big fan of yours. Super supportive. In fact, I think I had actually even I had a Root Gaming jersey
Oh wow. Yeah.
that I like bought. Like, I wanted to support you, so I bought this jersey. I think I had it with me, and I got him to sign it.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
the thing that has always stuck out with me is he remembers that. He
Mm.
remembers that interaction. Like from me fangirling over him, it is still something that he has brought up. Like anytime I'll like drop a resub in his chat, and he's like, I will never forget you coming up to me at DreamHack Austin and me thinking, oh my God, this is the tallest StarCraft 2 player I have ever met in my life. And just even today, like perfect example, the whole story about my username, he remembers that my handle used to have Ichiro in it. So when
Mm.
I dropped my sub today, he's like, yo, Ichiro, nice to see you. And I was like, excuse me. And again, that's a name I haven't heard in quite a while.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just someone thoughtful like that, and
Hmm.
that it costs him so little to do nice things like that, but to me it means the world, and that's
Yeah.
something that I have wanted to try and do myself. A perfect pivot on that. That at DreamHack Austin, I had a person in my stream. The username is Lazy Turtles, and he is just kind of hung around in my stream for a long time. When I was coordinating going to Austin, I told my stream chat, I was like, "Yeah, this is going to be a thing. We should hang out if you're going to be there." And
Hmm.
he and his wife were able to be a part of that, and we hung out. And there was a point in time, like for me, it was just like, oh, I'm just hanging out with like friends and people that I know. This is super cool.
Yeah.
He actually reached out to me and kind of shared a very like thoughtful letter with me. He's like,
Mm.
You have no idea how much that day, that weekend meant
Oh
to
wow.
me."
Yeah.
And I like, the impact was just really cool because going back way back to that imposter syndrome sort of feeling, like I
Hmm.
don't feel like I'm a big personality in StarCraft.
Right.
But then I have those moments where like, you that meant so much to me. Thank you for being a part of my experience.
Hmm.
Like you reaching out to me to even to like do an interview like this, like the fact that like I never got a chance to say thank you for your kind words, saying for what you said at the beginning about
Mm.
me, because you're someone that I've always looked up to. And I had told people like today, like, dude, this guy's been on the Pylon show. He has his own book talk show. Like, this guy's like the real deal. This is how we make it big, baby. He's gonna
Yeah.
take me to the moon.
Well, I hope
And
so.
it's just it's a humbling reminder that the people that I look up to and I have strong feelings about and have impacted me in so many positive ways. It is a helpful reminder to remember that people feel the same way about me, and
Mm.
I think that's like a scary responsibility. And it kind of goes into teaching, because
Yeah.
kids are the exact same way. Like there are kids that they will remember me the rest of their lifetime for the way that I treat them, or the way that I expose them to something cool in music, or vice versa.
Hmm.
And that's scary to think about. So
Mm.
um I I always want to be the kind of person that at bare minimum, if you walk away from an experience with me, it's like, oh, he was a cool dude.
Mm. Yeah.
So um as someone like Neuro, to tie this back in, sorry, I kind of wandered a little
No,
bit.
this is perfect. Yeah.
So someone like a Neuro really reaffirms that, because that is the kind of person that he is
Hmm.
so good. I mean, Kestnut said it, he remembers things,
Yeah.
and that is the kind of person that I want to be. I am not as good at it as someone like Neuro, but
Hmm.
it's definitely what inspires me to be the kind of person that I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. I mean, I don't know that I could say it any better than you or chat already has, but yeah, immense respect for Neuro as well. I had a similar experience to what you're describing, where like somebody remembered something, and I was like, oh, you you remembered. In my case, it was Pig 2 BlizzCons in a row, where the first time, obviously he had no idea really who I was, or maybe he knew of me but hadn't seen me in the flesh, right? And the next year, I kind of approached him, and I'm not going to name names, but I literally, right before this happened with Pig, I had approached another big personality, and I had talked to this person the previous year at length, and they did not remember me like at all. They're like, basically, who the heck are you, kind of thing. And they were nice about it, but it was like, oh gosh, I I really was some nameless, faceless fan to you. But not with Pig. So with Pig, I approached him, and it was immediately after this other interaction, and he was like, "Oh, Era, it's so good to see you." Gives me a big hug. How you been doing, man? And I'm
Oh.
like, "Oh, senpai, you remembered, So yeah, that was just really cool. And I so appreciate that we have like such a depth of people in our scene who are of that kind of character, right? Like we've named so many of them already, Loco and Neuro and Pig. It's just I feel like we have such a wealth in our community of whatever that is. I don't even know what the words are for it, but that like just wonderful character. And I feel so grateful for it. And yeah, to your point about you being excited, or I think you even said I'm honored to do this interview. I'm like, gosh, like this is so trippy for me. Like the people who like lately, at least, I've been reaching out, to a lot of people to do interviews and different collaborations and content, book club and whatnot. It's like the people who I think are like the god tier are like, yeah, sure, I'll do your book talk show. And I'm like, really? Yeah. And then the people who like at best I think I'm peers with, right? Like other cool content creators, right? are like, "Oh, I'm honored to do that." I'm like, "Really? Rushi, you're honored to do an interview? Like, I thank you, man." I'm, so, yeah, it's just it's so cool, right? Like, I'm so thankful that we have the community that we do. And we've met
I
a lot of people, but go ahead.
I think there's something to that. And I think it has everything to do with the state of like just the StarCraft 2 community because we know that at any point, like especially now, like
Mm,
at any point, Blizzard could cut ties. Like we're not going
yeah.
to fund any major events anymore. We're not going to support the ESL. We're
Hmm.
just not going to do
Yeah.
any more things
Right.
for you. And then at that point, it's like, okay, what do we do? Like
Hmm.
as a community, like we still love StarCraft. That love is
Yeah.
never going to go away. We already have a lot of illustrations on that in terms of like Brood War. Brood War is in like its mid 20s. It is
Hmm.
older than most people that currently play the game.
Yeah.
And it's still finding a lot of support to get community events going, to get prize pools going. ASL, KSL, I think one of them is currently not happening right now.
Mm,
But like even still, like on the biggest stages, we're still finding ways to motivate and encourage the old player base, the new player base.
hmm.
And it all comes down to the community. Like we
Yeah.
have to stay connected. We have to work together. It's like it's kind of in the same vein of living in a small town. Like I'm from small town Iowa, and everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows what school you went to,
Mm,
what you did at work that last day. Oh, you got in a fight with your spouse. We heard about it at the gas station. And I feel like StarCraft is very much that small town mentality
mm,
where we know people and we keep track of things because like, of course, we know that the Cranky Ducklings host all of the great ANZ content, and the Chicken Man with this cock of the walk. Like, are you kidding me? Star Killer, the Pizza Killer
right.
himself.
Yeah.
He won this 24th pizza. All of these things that, in the grand scheme of things, like what, like Star Killer winning a $50 tournament, big whoop. And like if you just write that down on paper, like that doesn't mean anything to
Right.
anybody. But like for us, it's a huge deal.
Hmm.
And we make it a big deal
Yeah.
because it's what keeps our scene alive. It is what
Hmm.
keeps us thriving. And then all of a sudden we get these opportunities to have people wander into our scene, like a Creighton Olsen, for example,
Mm, yep.
who kind of graduated from being the bald GSL guy to now all of a sudden he's casting some of the biggest events in the scene. A great coming of age for him.
Yeah.
Um, you've got your people that are double dipping in the scene. Like I think of a Kilaris who
Mm,
has been able to run the gamut on StarCraft 2 casting opportunities, but now is doing like big PUBG scenes.
mm,
Todd, who has
yeah.
done a lot of StarCraft, but also does Warcraft 3. A Smix, if you will, who
Her story is
is
incredible. Yeah. Oh my God.
yes, and she could literally be anywhere. She could
Hmm.
be anywhere in the
Yep.
scene,
Yep.
and she's here with us,
Yep.
and that never is lost on me. I had interacting with her at DreamHack Austin. Like I was a meme lord. I actually have part of it here because I had it out. So when I was in Austin, I had bought some of these like little whiteboards because
Dude,
like
no
I'm a
way.
meme lord.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold on. Hold on. I did the same thing, but with, have you seen the like sticker paper, like whiteboard sticker paper that you'd roll onto a wall and then like peel
yeah,
back?
yeah.
Okay, I did the exact same thing with those, but okay, not to derail your story. I'm so glad that
No,
we're
you're
on that
good.
level, but okay, you tell your story.
No, but the whole time, like we're just like interacting here, and this actually was the very end of the grand finals. I was making sweet tender love to the camera. There are so many clips of me making it onto the mainstream just with this whiteboard. It was the
Yeah.
best $10 I've ever spent. You can actually see like where is it? The Mana's signature right here because he was in
Mm,
the finals. There
mm-hmm.
it is. Um and one of them was the fact that she was going back and forth. She was actually doing the hosting for both CS:GO
I
and
remember
StarCraft
this.
2 at that
Yes.
particular event. So
Uh-huh.
she was running, and that woman like had like 4 or 5 inch heels, and she's booking it across the floor. It was amazing. So at one point, I just held this up because they were making a big joke about how, like, oh, Smix, you know who your real fans are. You know where your love is.
Right.
And so I wrote this down. I hollered like, "Hey, Smix!" It was in between. It was like they were at a break, and
Yeah.
she sees this, and she just giggles so hard, and
Ah.
gets to a point where it's like, she actually posted it on Twitter, and I reached out to her. I was like, "Hey, will you sign it for me?"
Oh,
So of
that's
course you can kind of see it
fantastic.
there.
Yeah.
So yeah, she in between one of her breaks, she said like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to catch me on my run over to the CS:GO area,"
Oh my gosh.
and and it was like, it's those things. It's those little
Yeah.
finesse touches to a community that makes
Mhm.
it feel special. It makes you feel special to be a part of it, and it's something that I firmly believe that is what has and what will continue to keep the StarCraft 2 community secure and safe, even over the next couple of years. I mean, we're certainly not sure where things are going to go once the
Sure.
ESL contract comes up, but is if we can keep our eyes on those types of things in our
Mhm.
community, that's what I think is going to keep us going the most.
Yep. Yeah, passion is a resource, man, and there's so many people with good hearts in our scene. Like, I almost feel like Rushy and I need just a whole new thing where it's just we fanboy about how great every, we pick like three people and we talk about them for an hour. Like, I because I'm about to do it again with Smix. Like, I just recently was listening to she did another interview on Zombie Grub's Caster Calls. And if
Mm-hmm.
you've never heard, I'd heard Smix's story from back when Cyan Esports did. And if you haven't seen that interview, either you, Rushy, or anybody listening to this, like, please go find Cyan's YouTube and go watch that interview and the one that Zombie Grub did, because they're both fantastic. Like, there is not a human alive who deserves all of the success that they have more than Smix. Oh my gosh. Like, and there's not a person more perfect for the role either. Like, and she started doing it out of the freaking goodness of her heart, bored in her bedroom, like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll just translate some stuff, whatever. Like, and so just to see it go from that to where she's at now, right? And the fact that she hasn't forgotten us, right? Like, she has not forgotten a single ounce of what she came from and or any of that journey. Like, oh gosh, so much respect for her. Yeah. This is about you. This is not about me fanboying about the people you mentioned.
No,
Are
I love that kind of stuff. That I think is like, that's definitely my normal reflex, because yes, I'm proud of me and myself and the things that I've been able to do,
mm,
but I would be so wrong to not recognize the people that helped me along the way.
yep.
And that's kind of my defense mechanism, is like, what, okay, I'm cool, but look at this person, they're way
Mm,
cooler. Let's talk about them.
sure, sure. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, well, maybe I trapped you with this question then, because we clearly we both love telling these stories, right? And we both have a deep appreciation for the scene. Um, well, at the peril of making half the interview being us not talking about you, do you want to do the quick hit list of other people you want to thank for influencing you?
We got a lot of them. A lot of the big names. We talked earlier about Sure Should I. I
Hmm.
think without him, I don't think I ever would have gotten into casting.
Yeah,
So big shout out and a lot of love to him and all the people that were at Proxy Tempest. That
yeah.
organization is no more, but they really kind of cradled me and gave me a lot of the skill set to be in the casting realm.
Hmm.
I can't thank Alpha X enough. I mean, Sushi, I cannot think of a person in the StarCraft 2 scene that works harder than Sushi.
Mm,
He's a full-time person. I think somebody's mentioned they think he's in finance, and that sounds
mm,
correct,
sure.
because
Yeah.
he's so good with like the accounting side
Mm,
of balancing sponsors and paying players and all sorts of stuff.
hmm. Hmm.
But the man doesn't sleep. I think he has messaged me at literally every hour of the day for various things, and he works so hard.
Yeah.
There's so many things behind the scenes that he plans, and the fact that he took chances on me
Mm,
to help build me into a better person, like, I can never thank him enough for that. Miguel is someone that I've really gelled with, that got me involved with the Alphax Junior Championships, and that's a person that I'm always super grateful for. Just in general, the people who, like, just come and watch and support.
hmm.
It's super cliche, I know, but I wouldn't wouldn't do the streaming thing if there
Yep.
weren't people that came and watched.
Right.
And I've had people that have showed up to my stream and you just kind of like, cool, I'll drop a follow and then maybe
Hmm.
catch you. I've got people as of late, like there's a couple people in chat, like one of them is Crucifix that's chatting right now.
Hmm.
Somebody that is a ride or die. I mean, he's messaged me about a bunch of things.
Hmm.
Just has had a positive impact not only on me but like my community as well. It's those people that make streaming so much better. um there's another one. X-Ray is another person that has been in my stream, has also been in Loco's stream as well. Like my community and Loco's community are basically just like this at this point.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
so many people find me through him, and like that could not be a better solution for me because there are so many wonderful people in his stream chat that are awesome. But like those people are just, they're so influential, and it's hard to accurately share that with them
Hmm.
on how much of an impact that they make. And I try to just return that by like, hey, that this person knows I'm going to be here Tuesday at 4:30, and they're setting time out of their schedule
Right.
to do it. Like, hell yeah, let's get on it. Like, I had a crappy day, but let's go party with these people. Let's
Hmm.
have some
Hmm.
fun. Let's do something different for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And Shun lurking. Nah, he's good people. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of great people in my stream community. I mean, I definitely look up to people like you, Aret, who
Oh, thank you, man.
bring different avenues to our community. I think I won't be coy in saying that I probably one of my dreams is to be on the Pylon show, and you've been on the Pylon show
Mm.
twice now, right?
It still
Um,
surprises me. Yeah, they had me back. I don't know.
dude, I like, it's for a reason. You bring such a neat perspective. Like, I love your idea of the book club. I wish I
Mm.
was more into books. Like, I should actually just like force myself to get
Mm.
into books on the chance that you might invite me back and like, let's talk about this deep thing. It's like, well, I
Hmm.
didn't read this important mature book that you read, but I read Harold and the Purple Crayon, and I just wanted to talk about how interesting that is. A crayon that never runs out. What? How does that work?
Yeah.
Can we talk about this? Who's bringing this up? But but I think that is a personal goal of mine. Is
Mm.
I want to be a member of the community that gives back in a positive way, that is worth the time and effort
Hmm.
that it takes to do it,
Yeah.
because it's hard
Hmm.
to come home after 9-10 hours at school
Yep.
and booting up the stream,
Yep.
or waking up at 3:30 in the morning to go cast for a Korean event, or doing like the King of Battles stuff. Like the King of Battles was a whole thing. I
Hmm.
loved every second of it, don't get me wrong. Like,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
cannot wait for Alpha X to be able to put together that magnitude of event again, and I hope that I did good enough to be able to be asked to do it again.
Hmm.
But that is something that I admired in you, because I feel like you've reached that point. I feel like
Mm.
you've made that kind of impact. So I hope I'm on my way to make a similar kind of positive impact.
Oh, I think you're there, man. I think you understate it for sure. Gosh, I had something else. Oh, okay. It came back. Um, yeah. So we were joking a bit ago about how much of this interview I made about anecdotes of different people, but it's interesting. I was talking to my Discord saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this later. You should really watch it. Rushi's really cool. And a bunch of people were like, oh, I know him. He's really awesome. You're really doing a thing with him. And, and people were hyped up about it. And then there was like one or two people who were like, wait, who's this guy? Like, what's the deal? I'm like, I don't actually know how to like capture it in words, but like, trust me, like this guy's it. Like like he's got like a really good like heart, or like I was struggling with my words, and which is weird because normally I feel like I can kind of say what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking, right? Like I can sort of externalize it, and I couldn't really do it. And eventually I was like, look, just watch it. You'll see what I mean. Like watch this guy talk for a couple hours. You'll get it. Like, so, and I feel like we kind of achieved that. And it's funny because like I say, it is not usually hard for me to pin down, like, what is it about this person that I really like, right? Like what is like the special, really cool thing? and I was it's so like innate in you, and like again, you're watching me struggle for words, right? Which and so I don't know, I'm glad to fumble my way through being like, no, look at this guy, really, he's fantastic, like, and I'm so glad that he's in our community. I'm curious, just to kind of sort of close it out. And by the way, if you want to do the book club thing, we'll do it. But also, you're not the first person to say to me, I'm not that into books, but I like talking about deep stuff. So maybe I need to work on that and figure out some other way, something that's not Archives Book Club, but it's like, this is like Archives Light. We're not going to do a book, but we're going to like talk about stuff that is archivesy. Like maybe I need to do something like that. So we'll talk about that. If you want to do that, we'll do that.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, I'm curious, man. You kind of said it a little bit, like you want to have this impact. But what's next for you? Do you have goals for the next year? 2021 is a fresh start, man. Anything could happen.
True. Well, right now on my stream, I'm really trying to focus on getting back into Masters 3. This summer during quarantine, I was able to push enough to get myself into Masters 3, which is the first time I'd ever done it in my career, which was super cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I fell out of it obviously once school got started back up because I wasn't able to play for like 5 hours a day on stream. And if I'm gonna play louder, I might as well stream. Is my mentality on that. So trying to work into that. I think like I definitely want to keep going on the casting. Being able to cast for things like King of Battles and then being contracted to cast for DreamHack was literally a dream come true. That was like, I don't even know that I could have like put that on a list of like, oh yeah, this seems like an achievable goal. But then just the way some of the things panned out with doing all online events this year. And again, just kind of being very fortunate. The ESL reaching out to Alpha X being like, hey, we need a couple of quality casters to help us anchor down the D stream. I always love doing it that way. But and then like getting reached out to Heyoka was so fun to work with. And then on top of that, like there's always that lingering like, okay, cool, we got asked and when we did it, like, oh cool, like, well that was fun, that's gonna be the only time we ever do that, right? And then Heyoka reaching out and going, yeah, so like we want you back. hold on, hey, did you message the right guy?
Right.
Are you sure? Like maybe you were actually thinking of somebody else. Here, let me message them for you. I'll get you connected, don't worry. Like that literally was a dream come true for me. And I would love the opportunity to be able to continue expanding that. I don't do a whole lot of casting right now. The junior championships is kind of my passion project to at least keep me fresh and loose and ready to go. But I know that that's something that I really enjoy that I want to keep doing. So I would say in 2021, especially over the summer when my schedule frees up as a teacher, I'm able to do at least a little bit more flexible things. I'd like to get into some of the higher tier events, casting some of the better, the upper echelon, I shouldn't say better, the upper echelon players and some of the bigger events with the hopes that I know, okay, and I'll say this, but I've already kind of destroyed the whole this will never happen once. Like I don't think I would ever be able to be a part of like an in-person production for like an ESL event, but that would just be like that would maybe be like, okay, we can finish my career. I've achieved greatness. I don't think it gets better from here. So I'd love to do more of that. And again, just like just being a positive force in the community, trying to build people up, keep things going, keep that love of StarCraft rolling. And just really that's the kind of legacy that I hope that I can leave.
Yeah, I totally get it. And I feel like, like I say, you're well on your way to that. It would not surprise me at all if we saw, these prophecies come true. One day, I hope people look back on this video like they look back on Science video with Smix, and they say, look, yeah, he got it then, he gets it now. I hope that we see that day. That's just so cool, man. And really neat too, that you're able to do, you get that flexibility in the summers to kind of go over and do some of these things at wacky times. I've always kind of seen that, and I admire the people who, find a way to bend their life to make that work, because
Mhm.
I just can't do it with the the nature of my work or whatever. There's just no way I'm ever going to be able to try to cast one of those things, and it seems cool, right? But also, I
Mhm.
mean, gosh, that's not easy. Waking up, super early and doing that stuff, and yeah, so really neat that you get to do it, and cool that you're like willing to just dive into that adventure. Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess I'll drop a raid here, but do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Well, I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't like pimp my own like channel and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Let's get all your socials out there, please.
I keep things pretty simple. I don't do a whole lot on YouTube right now. There might be some opportunities going forward with my VODs of the Alpha X Junior Championships going up on a
Mm,
YouTube. But right now, best place to find me are on Twitter and Twitch, twitch.tv/RushySC, Twitter at the same handle, twitter.com/RushySC. I do a lot of my casting through Alpha X, so check out all of their events as well. The Alpha X people are just wonderful, great community, great people doing great things. Um, I do have I am very public about like my stuff as a band teacher. So at SLHS Tornado Band is the handle. Like if you do like following some of the band stuff that I post, occasionally I post pictures. I'm really proud of my kids, so I like posting about them on social media, and
yeah.
it's actually linked right on my personal bio, so
Mm,
I don't have any problem sharing that out as well. I think like final thoughts. Honestly, a big thank you to you for inviting me to be here. Like I said earlier, I'll say it again. I'm really honored that you asked me. I'm super thrilled to be able to talk about my experiences and what my life is like here in the StarCraft realm. And I'm super grateful for people like you who bring more perspectives and more passion to the community, because you are a person, you're like a pitcher, you fill people up. Like
oh man.
this has really filled me up today with a lot of energy. I told you earlier I've been kind of fighting a little bit of exhaustion from
Hmm.
vaccine dosage I got yesterday, but like
Yeah.
we've been going for what, an hour 45 minutes,
Yeah.
and like I'm juiced. Like I'm ready. Like I'm sitting here going like, wait, do we like press the stream button? Do I play some
Right.
StarCraft now? But no, you're a really cool person in the community. I'm so excited for all the things that you've made happen, and I hope that you continue to find the success that you're looking for as well.
Oh man, thank you. You're too kind. Yeah, to hear you say, a bit about, filling people up, like really actually does mean a lot, cuz that for me is that was the point. Like that's what I set out to try to do. So to hear you say that really does mean a lot. Yeah, so thank you. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. It's been yeah, a ton of fun. I feel like I could sit here and talk about, oh, were you at this event? Do you remember watching that? I just feel like I have that energy with you where it's just a good time to talk about that, or oh yeah, this person's so cool, and then we talk for 30 minutes about why they're great, so
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, it's been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I say, when when I hear you say like, "Oh yeah, it's an honor to do it," I'm like, "Shoot, it's an honor to have you," So yeah, the feeling's absolutely mutual. Yeah, I guess we can close it out. I'll drop a raid, but thank you so much, and I'll make sure to get all your socials and stuff in the bottom of the YouTube thing so people can find you.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say to the people?
Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in and watching. Just spread that love of StarCraft. Be unabashed about it. Let it flow. That's what's gonna keep us going for years and years to come.
Yep, yep. Passion is a resource, people, and we can make it for free.